Okay, hello.
It's truly an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for giving us the time.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Looking back, what struck you most about the Rohingya women you have met? And also, how did you see Sheikh Hasina's decision to open Bangladesh's door to them? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the CrossExam. I am Kazi Mamun. Today, we are joined by Dr. Shirin Ebadi, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Iran's first female judge, and a fearless defender of democracy and women's rights. Her activism has taken her to Bangladesh. In 2018, she visited the Rohingya refugee camps, met women who had fled mass rape and violence in Myanmar, and called the atrocities genocide. Along with two other Nobel laureates, she thanked the Bangladeshi people and then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for sheltering more than 1 million refugees. Now, since August 2024, Bangladesh has faces a new crisis: rising violence against minorities and women, food insecurity, and the burden of over 1 million refugees. With Dr. Ebadi, we'll explore what these struggles mean for democracy, human rights, and global solidarity. Human Rights Group reported since August 2024, the violence against women has increased. In some cases, there have been reports on BBC and Al Jazeera and globally renowned newspapers that the peace situation in Bangladesh has declined significantly. Dr. Evadi, my first question to you would be, how do you see the political changes and how it impacts in a country where religion is being used for political interest and people are being misplaced, displaced from their home?
Mhm. Unfortunately, um, exploiting, abusing the name of religion and Islam in particular is something that is occurring in many countries, including my country, Iran. In my opinion, the best way to deal with this problem is through using Islam itself to show them that what they are doing in the name of Islam is wrong, and to show to the Muslims that they are abusing the name of the religion. They are mocking them, in fact, by abusing the religion and by exploiting Islam to their own ends.
Thank you, Dr. Evadi. My next question, you mentioned about Iran. Many are finding similarities with Iran due to the Western influence and how religion was weaponized for politics in Bangladesh as well. Uh, do you see how Iran's situations has changed? Do you foresee any situations like that in Bangladesh being stuck for decades without democracy with current situation?
What caused this theocracy, the Islamic Republic, to be established in Iran was that some 46 years ago, the people voted for it because they genuinely believed that these people were Muslims, and they were genuine Muslims. And it was after years of research, education, raising awareness of the population that gradually the people realized what had happened to them. And this led to the weakening of the structure of the theocracy of Islamic Republic of Iran. Moreover, the people have been witnessing in the past 46 years the extreme violence meted out against the opposition by this government in Iran. And they've become even more convinced that this government has to go. And I can tell you for certain that over 80% of the Iranian population at the moment are against this government because of all the crimes it has perpetrated in the name of Islam.
you have seen how authoritarian regimes use selective justice. There was a lot of hope in Bangladesh when Dr. Muhammad Yunus took over in 2024 the power, and people were hoping that we will get peace. But last 1 year, human rights groups are reporting that since August 2024, after the change of power, more than 2,400 incidents of communal violence against minorities have been documented, and only 40 arrests has been made, and 88 cases are filed. And like you have seen, you have also defended dissidents in Iran and experienced the misuse of courts. And during Dr. Yunus's time, last 1 year, the first few months of the interim government was nice. And after that, 1,000 police cases were filed against members of the opposition parties. Uh, so to you, my question is like, what are the risks when a new rulers use the police and courts against their rivals? Like, how can reforms can avoid this type of revenge and actually work for the people?
The most important issue here is that in countries such as Bangladesh, Iran, and there are many similar countries where this kind of thing unfortunately happens, and which goes to show that what is important and must be observed is fair trials. They have to make sure that there is a proper system of justice and there is a fair trial and observing all international criteria. And they must abide by all international criteria. The judicial system must be a fair system and based on international standards. So, what is important is to ensure that whatever new government comes to power is has been obligated to ensure that any trials and any justice system is a fair one.
When Dr. Yunus took over a year ago, there was a big hope for women too. Women were protesting on the street, women were being involved, and you have been to Bangladesh in 2018 uh, regarding the Rohingya issues. Situation has changed dramatically. More than 2,000 rape cases has been recorded, and also women's are too scared to go out in public or even after dark go alone anywhere now. How do you foresee this situation? Like, how can we get out of this situation? Or even countries like Iran, let's say, what can we learn from that? Any countries that are people, the religion and the culture, how can we use them instead of
Okay.
weaponizing them?
As I noted earlier, this is something that Muslims themselves should deal with. And in Bangladesh, I'm talking about the Muslim population of Bangladesh. What they have to do is search Islamic books, Islamic holy books, and try and cite examples from the time of Prophet Muhammad uh, to prove that this kind of discrimination against women must not exist. I'll give you an example to clarify what I'm trying to say. At the beginning of Islam, when Prophet Muhammad conquered Mecca, and all the Muslims came to pay allegiance to Prophet Muhammad, and paying allegiance was the equivalent of voting for somebody and casting your ballots for someone nowadays. And in those days, according to the culture of the time, and I'm talking about 14 centuries ago, men came and shook hands with the Prophet Muhammad to show their allegiance to the Prophet. So the Prophet said, what about women? I would like women to come and pay allegiance. And because the culture of those days did not permit women to shake hands with men, the Prophet came up with a solution. He asked for a bucket of water. They placed a bucket of water in front of the Prophet. He put his hand in that bucket of water and he said, "Now, women who want to pay allegiance, they don't have to shake my hand, but I would like them to also come and put their hand in this bucket of water." So he found a solution. Now, 14th century later, should we be going backwards? Should we not be trying to find similar solutions or advance the rights of women? And this story, by the way, I did not make it up. You can find it in Shiite and Sunni books of tradition. And what it does is it highlights a very important issue. And that was that 14 centuries ago, Prophet Muhammad respected a woman. And it is now down to scholars in Bangladesh and in the Islamic world to use such examples, to try and find similar examples or surahs from the Quran and the Holy Book to show that this kind of discrimination must not exist, and Islam is not a religion that represses women.
We know that in 2018, you have visited Bangladesh with two other Nobel laureates. And in 2018, when you visited Bangladesh, you met Rohingya women who had fled Myanmar, and you praised the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for sheltering over 1 million refugees, which is very brave considering Bangladesh already overpopulated country. Looking back, what struck you most about the Rohingya women you have met? And also, how did you see Sheikh Hasina's decision to open Bangladesh's door to them?
When in 2018, I met and spoke with some of these Rohingya refugee ladies, what struck me most was the dire situation in which they lived. They had very few facilities. They had, be it hygiene, be it education for the kids, they weren't given any privileges. For instance, the kids, the Rohingya kids, were not allowed to have a similar education as the children in Bangladesh or go to the same schools as them. So they could only be educated within these camps, which I stress were in very dreadful, dire situation. So on the one hand, I very much praise and I appreciate what Sheikh Hasina did. I think what she did was excellent, hosting over 1 million refugees, as you rightly pointed out. But my only criticism is if you host these refugees, make sure that they live in decent conditions and they have, the same things as access to the same healthcare, welfare as the people of Bangladesh, especially the children.
At the same time, we are noticing the rise of extremist group in Bangladesh that are even in a lot of cases questioning the authority of women's or participation, stopping and banning the participation of women's in everyday life even. Right, human rights groups has warned about the extremist Islamic movements that are gaining the influence and continue to attack the minorities and the women. And you have long argued for the separation of religion and the state. How can Bangladesh, a country like Bangladesh, with the influence of Western geopolitical interest in that region, how can Bangladesh protect itself and its democracy from being hijacked by the extremists? What role can religion play in this, and what role the people can play?
I would like to highlight the importance of the constitution. I'm not sure about the constitution of Bangladesh. Does your constitution actually specify that the country is a secular country, or does it say that it is an Islamic country? Now, if the secularism has not been stipulated in your constitution, it's very important to push for that, to push for the constitution to be for another draft of the constitution in which it is stipulated that the country is secular, which means that legally whoever comes to power will not allow such extremist movements to exert their influence based on the law.
So you were the first female judge in Iran before being forced to resign, and then you reinvented yourself as a lawyer and activist. What kept you going through these difficult times, and what personal sacrifices have you had to make for your activism? And what advice would you give to the younger activists facing similar struggles today, maybe in Bangladesh or Iran and some other countries?
Um, Authoritarian governments, such as the Islamic Republic of Iran, they are systematically repressing, cracking down on activists and anyone who opposes them. Personally, I have experienced imprisonment. My assets, everything I owned in Iran was confiscated by the government. Even the house that I'd inherited from my father was taken away and auctioned. And my bank accounts were all frozen. And since I was out of Iran at the time, they arrested my husband and my sister, and they even imprisoned them for a while. And they sent me a message saying, if you stay quiet and don't say anything against the regime, we will not only free your relatives, but we will also give you back all your assets and belongings. And I said, no, under no circumstances am I going to be silent, because I know what the people of Iran are suffering. So these are the kind of sacrifices I made. And what I want to say is that you always have to pay a price in order to achieve freedom, democracy, and to make sure that human rights is respected in any country. Look at democratic countries such as Italy, France. And if you read their history, you will see that they have also paid a price to reach this level of democracy. It hasn't all been plain sailing for them. So there is always a price tag attached to freedom and human rights. And the young generation has to be aware of that and has to be prepared to make these sacrifices and to pay the price.
When you won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2003, you said it was all for women of Iran. How did that recognition change your work, and do you feel it gave women in Iran and beyond a stronger voice? And also, what responsibility comes with being a Nobel laureate? Do you feel it helps open doors in your advocacy or sometimes creates more challenges?
The Nobel Peace Prize, although it actually worsened my situation in Iran in terms of the way the government treated me, but on an international level, it was actually very conducive to my work. It facilitated my work by providing me with platforms, loudspeakers, from which I could ensure that the voices of the Iranian people are heard throughout the world. And it also impacted Iranian women, although the Iranian regime did not change the discriminatory laws against women in the country, but the women became more courageous. An example of which you witnessed in 2022 in the Women Life Freedom protests, during which three generations of females, from 15-year-old girl to mother and grandmother, they all took to the street, uh, chanting slogans calling for freedom and democracy. So, on the whole, I would say it has been very positive for the feminist movement and for trying to promote the importance of equality and end to discriminations.
You have worked with activists from many countries, from Myanmar to Afghanistan. How can human rights defenders learn from each other across borders? And you often emphasize that democracy is not just about elections. What is, in your view, are there any essentials of a real democracy that we can learn from you and use that probably in Bangladesh?
Democracy, in the real sense of the word, is to have respect for the rights of the minorities. Look, in an election, the majority that comes to power, they must respect, they must not in any way ignore the rights of the minorities. In a nutshell, look, a majority that has come to power, they already have their rights. It is vital for them to make sure that they respect the right of the other party that has not been successful and has been in a minority. So they have to be, it's essential that they respect the rights of minorities, otherwise there will not be a democracy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ebadi. Thank you for your time and insights, and of course, your lifelong commitment for human rights. Your reflections remind us that democracy is not just about election. It is about protecting women, safeguarding minorities, and feeding the hungry and standing with the displaced. Bangladesh's story since August 2024, from rising communal attacks to Rohingya struggle to looming food crisis, reflects wider challenges the world must face together. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Ebadi, and thank you so much, Ms. Mariam, as well, for helping us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you. And goodbye.
خداحافظ خانم.
خداحافظ.